I'm Susie Jones from the Walpole Island First Nation, which is to the southwestern part of Ontario. It's part of the Great Lakes system. It's a reserve of it used to be 5 islands, now it's 6 islands. And my great-great-grandfather was the chief of the Great Lakes system. So I come from a historical point of view and yet a current point of view. I'm part of the residential school system, and that's what I wish to speak to today. At 4.5, I was taken from my family home on Walpole Island. I was standing in the front yard, and a car came by and picked me up. I was 4.5 years old, and my brother was 6 years old. And we were taken to the school. Nobody notified my family. The school I went to was the Shingwak Indian Residential School in Sault Ste. Marie. And so it was an all-day trip. It's an all-day trip today, but in those days, the only means of transportation was by car. And so I imagine that it took all day and probably into the night. And I stayed there until I was 16 years old, and according to the Indian Act, the government had the right to your education, and they used the residential school system to assimilate and probably they thought they could get rid of the Aboriginal people that way by putting them into the residential school. So the rule was that they had to keep you until you were 16 or until you had graduated from the school. So I did both. I was finished grade 12, and and now I was 16, so I could leave the system. So that was in 1941 to 1953. I was taken at 4.5, and I really didn't get to come home until I was 8 or 9. I don't know exactly what year that was or what age I was, because when you live the same kind of life every day, the years run in together. So I had to stay there for at least 4 or 5 years without seeing my parents. And then after that, I got to come home, but I didn't go to the reserve because we no longer had a home there. My parents had moved to Detroit, which is the biggest city close to the reserve in another country besides. And so I went to the Detroit area and lived there and married a man from my home reserve who had gone to the same residential school I had. And so I really didn't return to my reserve until I was 55, when I had retired from work from the state of Michigan, which is right across the river from my reserve. So I did know where it was. I only went occasionally, but because I didn't have a home, I didn't know my family, and didn't really have much of a family to speak of where I could stay overnight, so I would just go during the day, so I had no idea what my culture was, or I had lost my language by then too. Not just from my life, because I lived that life, but also the remembering of other students, how it impacted them. And I know that one thing for sure was the bell that woke us up in the morning. I can't remember the time, but I do remember I thought it was very early, and one of my goals in life during all that time in residential school was to be able to sleep in. And yet when I got out of school and had a job and everything, I was used to waking up early, so I always did wake up early. I never got to sleep in till now, now that I'm of old age. So after the morning bell, we would get up and we would have a job to do. Every student had a job to do. So she or he worked then or after the morning meal. So we had our job, we ate our breakfast, everybody had to line up, and bells controlled everything that we did. And so we'd go into our meals, and we would then be able to start school. Oh, gotta put in the important part. There were 139 schools, residential schools across Canada, and they were all run by a religious denomination. And so that was a big part of the schooling, and mine was from the Anglican Church. So we had to go to church morning and evening, and then we started school. And we had school in the morning, and then our lunch, and then in the afternoon we did manual labor, either cleaning the school, the building, washing, ironing, sewing, things like that, that the females did. The males had to go out and do the farm work.